Hello, and welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur group, where we talk to employees turned entrepreneurs and hear their inspiring stories and their struggles and what is happening that has made them be so passionate about being an entrepreneur and a business owner. And I'm so excited today to talk to Martina Rowley. She is the owner of Martina Rowley and Company. And she is an executive assistant to small businesses that she helps that from around the world. But she is going to share with us today her journey from being an employee to now being an entrepreneur and having her own business, and tell us how that has worked for her. So thank you, Martina. It's great to have you here, and welcome.
Hi, Kim. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on your interview panel, your interview show, and letting me share some of my experiences along the way.
Well, we're so happy to have you, and thank you for joining. And can you start off by telling us what kind of employment you had? Where did you start, and what kind of job you had?
Actually, straight out of school, I did an apprenticeship. I grew up in Germany, so they have structured apprenticeships for many jobs. I started out as I suppose you call it an office clerk, and did a 3-year apprenticeship on the job where you get training on the job as well as theoretical training, then at a tech college. So this was a full-on program, and then at the end of it, you have the big exam and everything. Yeah. And I worked my way up from administrative assistant to an executive assistant, and then had a 20+ years career as an executive assistant working in mostly corporate jobs.
And that was in Germany?
This started in Germany, and then I've moved around a little. So this started in Germany, then I moved back to my original home country of the UK, and worked there with Procter & Gamble for 6 or 8 years, and then eventually emigrated to Canada and continued that because that was my fallback option. That was my go-to ability to have a good job as an executive assistant.
Right. So when you emigrated to Canada, did you have a job?
No, I didn't. I came over here on spec and just decided that I would find something. Wow. So I moved to Toronto. I did do a little bit of my homework, before I came here. I knew that obviously moving to the big city, that's where the jobs are, and surely I would be able to find something within a reasonable time. So initially, I registered with 1 or 2 temporary agencies to get office jobs, and then I did get something. I think within a month or 2, I started getting some temporary assignments, and then I found that quite often, if I had a temporary assignment that was supposed to be maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, quite often they would then recognize, you know what, this is a capable person, and we could actually use help longer term, and it would quite often turn into something that was a few months, and then eventually I landed what it is now my last corporate job, but at the time was then a permanent employment, and I worked there for a couple of years at an insurance company, or in the insurance industry, I should say.
Right. So what was it that made you become an entrepreneur?
It wasn't a direct route, I have to say. So I didn't have this big dream of, I want to start X business and be my own business owner. I had on and off toyed with the idea of maybe going into consulting work of some kind, but I couldn't really figure out what it was, what it could be as a business. And to be honest, I was always afraid of what is still a problem now when you're a business owner, is where would I get my contracts from? How would I find these clients that would then replace that steady income that my employer was always paying me every month? So that really held me back for a while. But I just reached a point, and I don't know what or why or how, I reached a point, maybe just as maturing as a person, where I just no longer fitted into that corporate mold, that pigeonhole of being the top-down hierarchy that you get in a corporate environment, the politics behind it, the red tape, the this, the that, the personalities that you have to deal with as well, good or bad. And I think I just didn't fit into that anymore. I sort of probably hit the glass ceiling of
Right.
how far I could go within my role, and I wanted more.
Right.
And that kind of career just wasn't offering me more. I wanted to be more involved in the work I was doing and not just being reactive to, here's a piece of work, do it and hand it back. I was never really engaged in the bigger picture of the business and why we're doing this and who we're doing it for and so on. And I suppose I had aspirations for more than I was being given. And then I just couldn't handle the whole personality thing about a large office environment anymore. And I just no longer fitted. And I think I became a disruptor. And, that doesn't fit into the corporate world if you're kind of asking too many questions and you're pushing the boundaries and you're trying to push the status quo. That just didn't work well. And I ended no longer being in the job. But what it did do is it pushed me to really identify what I was actually passionate about at this stage, what I really wanted to do and enjoy. So I went to university as a full-time mature student in 2005, I think it was. And
while you still had a job?
No, after. Again, this was after. I kind of take the leap first and then I swim and figure out where I'm going.
Right.
And I then went into an area of passion for me, which is environmental studies, and did a degree. And then after that, I had a very nice, at the time, dream job for me, really, an environmental job with a non-profit organization for a few years until the then mayor of Toronto started cutting all environmental programs.
Oh.
And our program got cut. And I really ended up without a job. And that wasn't my intention or my plan at the time. So after that, I couldn't get back into the environmental field. I try as I might. I couldn't find anything, and there was a lot of competition because so many paid jobs had been cut. And that's when the career center, the job center suggested and sort of said, have you thought about taking this a business program? At the time, Ontario still had the funding for the OSCB, the Ontario Self-Employment Benefits Program.
Mm-hmm.
And what that did was it provided financial assistance for 11 months to train people on how to start a business. So it was a 2 or 3 month in-class program where you had mentoring from a number of experts. And I learned, and I got into a program after a couple of attempts and tweaking what my business plan and idea could be. And I got all the training that you would need as a startup: sales, marketing, that you need a website, your business cards, how to network, how to present yourself, and what makes a good business idea, and how do you sell that to prospective clients. So we learned all of that, all the basics, as well as writing a business plan and projecting your business growth for the first 5 years, which is terribly hard if you don't even have the business yet. It's all
Right.
right? It's very theoretical. But that really set me up to start my own business. And then I initially had a co-working space in Toronto.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you actually had a physical space.
I did. I started out with a bricks and mortar place, and it was very exciting. It was also very nerve-wracking to sign the contract to have this building. I had to lease a space. I didn't have my own building. It was very exciting, and it was very well received. It was very well liked in the neighborhood, and it had a great feel about it. And I really liked being able to bring together business owners, the small business owners and entrepreneurs who typically worked from home or from coffee shops and so on, and bringing them into one space and being able to collaborate. And that helped me really grow a network of contacts from scratch, from zero.
That's amazing. But in the meantime, you were also running another business, were you not?
I started, while I had the co-working space, I started going back and sort of, I guess, dipping back into my experience as an executive assistant. So to some of the members who use the co-working space, I started providing administrative support. And that later then became the business that I now have.
And tell us about that business.
So just to close that first chapter,
Yeah.
the co-working space was great. Having a bricks and mortar place where you're paying someone for the building or for the space
Right.
was a huge overhead, and that was really not conducive to trying to make money. So after 2 years, I closed the co-working space, and then shifted to something with very low overhead costs, working from my home office as a virtual assistant. So I was able to bring one of the clients from that co-working space, who is still my client now.
That's great.
Yep. He was one of my first clients in the co-working space, renting a desk full-time on a month-to-month basis.
Right.
And I started supporting him with admin and executive assistant support, and then kept him on as a virtual assistant once I transitioned, and he's still my client now. He's back in France, or actually now in Switzerland, and we've been going for 6-7 years now, I guess. Been year 7.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes, it's fantastic. So I then transitioned to working from home and building a new client base to provide them with virtual assistants. So the back office support that every small business owner needs. Everything that goes on behind the scenes that is and also isn't really part of what you went into business for. Like for yourself, you do branding and help with marketing, but you don't want to be doing the bookkeeping. You don't want to be doing, maybe putting together e-newsletters to build your network, and writing blogs and so on. Maybe you do, but that may not be really what you're in business for. And it's tasks like that, and online research and whatever. It's a very wide range of support that the virtual assistant can provide. So that's what I started doing. And I think the first year when I did transition, I was still cautious to see if this, this virtual assistant thing that is still, or was still then, quite new, whether that would be sufficient, whether there would be sufficient demand for that. Would I be able to have a full client base or not? So in the first year in 2015, I got some temporary office jobs on the side as well when I could get something, and just gradually started building a client base to see if I would be able to do this full time and have a full-time earning on this. And then I figured out that there really was a demand, and I stopped doing temp work and just focused on providing virtual support full time.
So you got into virtual support at a great time.
I think so, yes. Yes. I mean, the industry has been around. I'm not quite sure who came up with the concept or the name, how long exactly the industry has been around. Probably 10, 15 years, I would think.
Yeah.
It still is, and it has seen a lot of growth in the 5, 6 years that I've been doing it as well. It really is continuously growing, because so many more people are starting their own business, because those long-term secure jobs where you're getting paid by an employer, those don't exist, or those are rare now, where you can find something and stay in it for years and decades until you retire, or you don't like it anymore. So there's not that job security. So there are more business owners, which means there are more clients for me.
That's fantastic. But you're right. There are so many more people that for reasons, various reasons, whether they become redundant and layoffs, which I experienced and gave me the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, but also those people that are just completely fed up with it, kind of like yourself, that, you know what, I've done this and I need to do something else now.
Exactly.
And those people also that are ready to follow their passion, or take their skill and make it into something that they control.
Yes. I found that with myself, as I've described, I've gone through a number of transitions. But I've also found this with other friends and my sister. Many people, once you get to it seems to be your late 30s or 40s, you're done with that first job you went into.
Yeah.
It seemed like a good time at the time when you didn't really quite know what you wanted to do. So you get into a career that you think is something you're good at and passionate about at the time. You do it for 10, 15, 20 years, and then maybe you realize that is no longer what you're passionate about, or maybe the industry has changed and you don't like how it's changed. And then
Yeah.
that's where I think many people go through that first transition, where they now go looking for something else and make a more, I think we make more conscious choices. At that point, we're more mature. We know what we don't like. Now we just need to identify what we do like better, and then go looking for what that could be. Does it mean going back to studying something to get a degree to set you up in that direction, or does it mean just joining a different company, a different industry, or does it mean starting your own business and really doing that one thing that you're passionate about at that point?
Right. So what do you enjoy the most about being your own boss or being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur?
Yes, there are a number of good things about it. I love the flexibility in terms of my work time. That was something I never enjoyed in corporate. You come 5 minutes late, you're 15 minutes late, or whatever, or you'd like to go to the gym first in the morning, but you have this cut-off time by when you have to be at your desk. Otherwise, someone's going like this.
Mm,
You're late, and it's bad on your record. I like the flexibility of my work hours. Now, I will say that maybe unlike some colleagues I know who have their own businesses, I still have a very structured week and very structured days. But that's just because that works well for me and kind of my mindset,
right.
because that puts me in the right frame of mind to say, okay, it's a work day. Now are my business hours. I need to work and I need to focus now. However, if I'm not feeling well, or if I'm really tired, or if I have an appointment to do, or if it's really fantastic weather, like is now coming up again in spring, I have the flexibility to take a 2-hour lunch break, or to make an appointment for a massage therapy, or go and see, whatever, a doctor or dentist, anything, or something more pleasurable than that during my workday. Or I can decide I'm taking half a day off, or I can decide I'm taking my Friday afternoon off. And that's something I want to transition to this year. I need to reduce this 5-day-a-week workday. That has to go. I need to start cutting that a bit.
Right.
But it gives me the flexibility to start later in the mornings, or maybe start earlier and finish earlier in the afternoon.
Yeah. The choice is yours.
It's the choice, and it's not somebody else. If someone's checking the watch and kind of tapping me in the shoulder and say, "Oi, are you going to start working soon?" then it's me. It
Right.
has to be my discipline, but it's not somebody else.
Yeah.
And the other flexibility I like is with clients. I get to choose, and I'm established enough that I have enough ongoing clients long term, that when I add in a client or fill a gap, I can be selective in who I work with. And that's what I like. I've identified over the years the kind of client I want to work with.
Mhm.
And just to add in for your listeners, I provide more virtual business support now than virtual administrative support. So I work more in the business management, business development, and project management side of things. So I've raised my standards and my expectations as well of who I want my clients to be. I want them to be at a higher level as well. So I can choose who I say yes to, and if I don't get a good gut feeling about someone in our first conversation, or the information we've exchanged, I can politely decline.
Yeah.
And I may send them to a colleague if it's maybe work that I don't want to do, because it's not something I'm specialized in, or something I don't enjoy doing. Then when I can, I will refer them to a colleague in the VA sector, or at least tell the prospect where they might be able to look for someone who's suitable in working with them. Or it might be someone I just really don't like, and then I'm not going to refer them to a colleague, because I wouldn't
Right.
want to do that to them either. But I love that flexibility, that I can choose who is best for me and who's best for my business.
Yeah.
And the last thing, sort of out of the top three, I think the last thing is the flexibility to be creative, to be really out there with whatever ideas I have for an additional income stream. If I think it's a good idea, I like the sound of it and I would love to do it, and it fits with my business, with the path that my business is going, then I can pursue this without having to jump through hoops trying to persuade or convince somebody else. There's no red tape other than my own or the client or whoever I'm trying to work with. And I could be
having to go through tons of approvals and
exactly. I can make that decision for myself. I can pursue it as fast or as slowly as I like, and work hard or slowly on it. It's my decision, and I like that. I like that a lot, to be the sole decision maker for things.
Yeah, and I guess that's exactly how you've been able to transition and, from the administrative to the executive, and you know where your strengths are, so you can pivot when you need to, without deciding with a whole bunch of people if it's right.
Yes. And I know, depending on what your business is, obviously, if you have a partner, as in a business partner who's got sort of a buy-in and a financial part in the business, then of course you have one person to discuss this with. It still is a lot more flexible than having a board of directors and a CEO and a C-suite this and a C-suite that, and having a whole string of people whom you need to be accountable to convince that it is a good business idea to do something. So it speeds things up so much, and that's the fun of it, because you can just dive right in if you want to.
Yeah, that's great. So another question for you then. What do you feel have been probably the biggest struggles in developing your business?
Well, at the outset, having a bricks and mortar place was a big leap. I wouldn't do that again as my first business. Maybe I would do it again if it were a business that I really want to pursue that requires a storefront. I would go about it very differently, though, because of, if you're renting a place, you have this huge overhead that eats into your profit margin before you've even paid yourself. That's very hard to do. I wouldn't do that in that form again. The other challenge is starting out, when you're starting, especially when you're coming from corporate, you don't have typically, I shouldn't say you don't have. Some people have great connections that they can transfer, or that maybe might follow them if they start their own business in a similar industry. They might be able to, sneak a few of those existing clients with them. But typically, if you're shifting from corporate into a completely different industry and starting your own business, you don't have a network, or your network are your friends and maybe a few business connections that can guide you somehow. But you don't have that network of contacts, those mentors who can help you along the way and give you advice. You don't have the prospective clients. You don't even know what a networking group is and where to find them. So you're really building your potential client base from scratch. And it takes a lot of effort, and having to put yourself out there, being that, that extrovert, regardless of whether you are an extrovert or not, but you have to be out there, you have to be seen, you have to be heard. You can't do this virtually, you have to be there in person. And that takes time. So that could potentially be a slow process, which means it sort of drags out how soon you will have a solid base of clients who will pay you, and having the sales. So that's sort of one big challenge. What was the other thing I was thinking? Having a mentor, I think. Finding a mentor, whether it's something informal or whether you pay for a business coach. And I definitely would advise both. If you can find a mentor, great. they probably aren't that easy to come by, because if there's a good one that you think, oh, I'll go and find this person from the Dragon's Den. That sounds like a good mentor.
Yeah.
I'm sure they get inundated with requests for
Sure.
coffee dates or lunch date or dinner to talk about business and get good ideas. But having a business coach, getting into a program, any program with a business coach, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching, and probably group coaching is more affordable when you first start out.
Yeah.
But I've learned over the years, I've learned so much through the different business coaching programs I've taken and different business coaches that I've been with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge learning curve. And that's one of the other things when you're starting out your own business and your first business, very importantly, your first business. I think after that, there's so many similarities. Even if you switch industry, you know what it takes to run a business. But at the beginning, you don't even know all the things you need to learn, and you need to learn everything because you wear all those hats yourself.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Precisely, and then you don't even know what to look up online. You can find everything online, but you don't even know yet what you need to be looking up for. What is that search term I need to look?
Yeah. What are the opportunities that I should be thinking about?
Precisely. So building a network and finding mentors or coaches that will teach you all these things that you don't even know you need to know.
Right.
And then perfecting that as you grow as a business owner. Those are really the biggest things: the network, the networking, building those connections, and then having that, as we call it, that funnel, having the pipeline of potential clients.
Yeah.
That's something very important. And also, as I've learned occasionally the hard way, you need to always be working on that. Always, even when you think you have enough clients and great, and they're promising to stay long term and everything's all good, and butterflies and unicorns, and then and then their business, something changes in their business or their life, and suddenly they're no longer your client, and maybe another one, suddenly they're no longer your client, and all of a sudden you have this big gap, and you haven't worked on networking and finding other prospects who are waiting in the wings for you to take them on, or for them to buy your product if you're selling an actual product. It's hugely important to keep working on your network and to keep active and front of mind with as big an audience as you can, so that we can fill those gaps when they suddenly open up right in front of our feet.
Yes, unexpectedly.
Yes, you think there's this path, it's nicely paved, and then suddenly the abyss just opens up in front of you when you weren't paying attention.
It's so true. It's so true. So I have a question for you about you work online, but you talk about networking. You like to meet a lot of people in person, but do you also do networking online?
I do, yes. I network online within my industry mostly. So I'm part of the Canadian Association of Virtual Assistants. So they have a Facebook group where we can post questions, concerns. If you're new in the industry, you have so many questions about how to handle clients, how to handle certain programs, or what the best programs are to do X, Y, or Z. So I communicate that way. I learn things from colleagues, and I share what I've already learned, sometimes the hard way or the easy way, and share that with colleagues as well. So that's a great way. I'm trying to think if there's anything else online. Well, there's a couple of, I think, chat groups or coffee chats that I participate in within the industry.
Is there anything that you do that is lead generation online?
I'm trying to think if I have that. I'm probably going to say no, and then in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I know I should. No, I don't believe I do. I do online marketing for myself. I have an email newsletter that I send out, and I blog, and then get myself out there through my social media.
Right, and
so that's exactly. In a way, it's lead generation. I'm on LinkedIn. I've become far more active on LinkedIn as well, to keep that active and not just post it as a resume that sits there and nobody ever collects dust and cobwebs. So I do that, but really face-to-face is important, even though I'm a virtual assistant. And with certain clients, if they're in the US, I will never meet them unless they're coming to Toronto
Yeah.
or somewhere I'm going where we happen to be in the city at the same time and can meet. That does happen, has happened with past clients. But often I will never meet them other than on a video chat as you and I are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But isn't that fantastic too, the way
it's
business?
a fantastic tool. Yes, it really helps because even though my work is all online, everything is on the computer and goes through the web and Wi-Fi and shared documents and whatnot, and programs and tools in the cloud. I personally still like a person-to-person aspect, and quite a few clients do still like that as well. If it's possible, if we're in the same country,
Yeah.
or if we can meet in one city, it is very nice. And to be honest, even though I've had a number of clients for 2 or 3 years already, when we meet in person, new things come up where I think you could have just emailed me that, or just sort of, why did you never say that, or why have you never asked for that? I didn't realize you wanted me to add this or to do that. And but it comes out in a personal conversation. So that face to face is still important. And
Mm-hmm.
also for me, in my industry, because most of my clients come through referrals.
Right.
Some find me online just through a search, but most of them come through referrals from people who know me, but may have never have been a client, but they know me through networking or business coaching or something else.
Right.
Or current and past clients often refer me as well. So that sort of a face-to-face component with somebody along the line is important.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as I like to tell people that I work with too, is get out from behind your computer every once in a while. It's so important. There's
Yeah.
a world out there. You need to connect with it.
Yes, and it's very important, exactly. And when you're the solopreneur and you really don't have that water cooler chit chat with colleagues, which is something I actually still miss.
Yeah.
That is something that was great in the corporate office. There's so many people around that to socialize with, to go to lunch with, and whatnot. I do miss that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to, or we as sitting behind our screen all the time, kind of entrepreneurs, really need to sometimes literally grab ourselves by the scruff of the neck and make ourselves go out.
Yeah.
Either to work from somewhere else, and I do this. I always try to have it as a more consistent thing, but it doesn't always work. But for tomorrow, for example, I have half a day booked in my calendar to leave the house, take my computer and 1 or 2 pieces of work that I need to work on, go to a coffee shop and sit there in a public setting where I actually get to say hello to some people I know from town, or to arrange a meeting at the coffee shop while I'm there, just to get myself into a different physical space.
Right.
And that alone puts me into a different headspace every time.
Yeah.
I have different ideas. I have different, new, better thoughts. Conversely, even though I'm in a public space, I can actually focus better. Strange. But I don't have the distractions from my desk, my home, my pet, whatever, the phone ringing or something.
Yes. Right.
And again, if I go to a networking meeting, even when I'm tired, if it's perhaps in the evenings and I don't really want to go and I'm just dragging myself there because I know I should,
Right.
I always feel great when I'm there, and I'm very happy that I went.
Yeah.
Because there's always something new. You meet someone new, you have a conversation, even if it's not necessarily going to lead to a prospect or client. But I get so many good ideas just from something someone said.
Yeah.
Of
Oh,
how
I
to
completely
speak.
agree with that. Like, that is such a great point that you bring up. It's not always that you're going to come away with a client. And I feel like sometimes people are so focused on, oh, if I go to a networking event, I have to get a client.
Yes.
Where you and I both know that, things lead to other things and they may take a bit of time. And it's amazing how something will come about, and you meet somebody and then they know somebody, and in months time or
Yes.
years, it could
Yes.
pay off. But there's benefits to actually meeting somebody and chatting with people and getting ideas. And I love that you said that,
Huge.
getting ideas.
Yes, it's huge. And even as an example, last week I had 2 meetings set up. I went into the city for the day. I set up consciously two meetings with past clients that I'm still in contact with. One meeting ended up getting cancelled because of an emergency situation. But anyway, I had one of the meetings first thing in the morning. And we had a conversation and we were saying, what are you doing? What's new? Blah, blah, blah. Right. And just in sharing what I'm working on, which is sort of a secondary income stream that fits with my business. And I shared this with my client, and she immediately went into this mentoring phase, I suppose, thought pattern. And she shared some thoughts and ideas on, you could do this, you could try that. This would really be good. That if you had a program like such and such, I would totally pay for this. So she came up with several ideas in our 1-hour coffee meeting.
Wow.
That we would have otherwise, I know we would not have discussed this in depth, because you're not going to exactly sit down with someone by email or texting back and forth for an hour. You don't have that kind of dialogue. But she came up with several more ideas to even broaden that income stream I'm working on right now, which is workshops, corporate workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been exploring which topics would be useful. And I told her what I'm planning right now, and she added to that and expanded on that. And I came away making notes like crazy. And these would have been ideas that I would have not had. It's not that she wouldn't have wanted to give me those, but that the interaction, the face-to-face and having that back and forth, that dialogue and bouncing around ideas, right, that would never have happened.
Yeah.
And this is, as business coaches like to say, this is, you're leaving money on the table.
Right.
By not pursuing this. Do not leave money on the table. These are great ideas, and they happen because we had a face-to-face. It might happen if you have a video call with someone, if you plan it consciously and say, look, I can't make it to come and see you, but I'd love to bounce some ideas off you, or just reconnect, and can we have a 30-minute video chat? And, we both make sure we have a cup of tea or coffee to make it a little bit more realistic.
Yes, yeah. If you have to actually, what I find if you're doing that is actually say something like that. Let's just get together and have like a half-hour coffee together and catch up.
Yes.
Rather than making it always so businessy. But yeah, it's still not as good as the in-person.
Yeah.
Because that's where those general conversations will happen.
It is. And then also, I always, every time I come back from those conversations, I come back energized, re-energized. I have great ideas. I have fresh ideas. And it just always, it always kicks things up a couple of notches.
Yeah.
So it's not just, oh yes, it was nice to see you. I always come away with an idea, whether they made it consciously, whether they made a conscious point or conscious suggestion or not, but just something they said triggers a chain reaction in my brain. And I'm thinking, oh, hang a minute. If I turn this around, do it like that, that would be a great idea for me as well. And then you build on that. And it's fantastic how that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets those creative juices flowing without you even realizing it.
Yes, precisely. Yeah. Whether it was intended or not, but it just sort of happened, and it happens. But sometimes you just have to drag yourself out there.
Yeah.
And encourage it to happen.
Right. Yeah, I so agree. So, so Martina, tell people what type of work that you can actually help people with.
Mm-hmm. I have 4 main areas, 4 main support areas that we provide. One is still administration, and that's basically your back office. Everything that has to happen in the background, documentation, online research, your scheduling, and so on. Client care that I can help, or my team and I can help take care of, that we can streamline for you. To make sure everything that should be documented is documented, so you can find it again, so it's professionally presented, and so on. Then the other stream is project management. So this can be anything from managing, I don't know, let's say you want a new website design, but you really don't have the time or don't understand the language, with the back and forth with getting quotes of web designers, and then how to do the back and forth with, this is what I want, no, that's not what I like, and then editing and re-editing and having a million changes done. Not a million, that wouldn't fit, but that would be costly. But managing that endless back and forth for someone, or it could be a more specific project for your business, and just overseeing all the many little steps that have to be taken, and making sure that those are taken and are tracked without the business owner having to be distracted from their main business. And then the other streams are business management and business development, anything to help you grow as a business owner,
right,
in terms of your productivity, your time management, how you do things and where you may be wasting time, as well as some research and helping make connections to potential prospects, new business ideas, doing online industry research, and so on. And then the final one is accountability. And that's become huge. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. And I've added that consciously as a support stream because it's been requested or much needed by a number of clients in the last couple of years. As business owners are growing their business, maybe growing their team, and they have, the shiny new object syndrome. They start something, but then after a while, they sort of lose a little bit of excitement and interest on that new thing, but it hasn't really been completed.
Or it gets to be challenging.
Or it gets challenging, and then they jump to something new before completing this one thing.
Right.
Or life takes over, family and this and that and something else, or your clients demand more of your time. And I have to always work on this myself too. We put the clients first, we do the client work, and at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, I did no social media for myself today. I haven't looked at my finances. I haven't done my bookkeeping. I've not done any plans on my, how to expand my network and so on. You're putting your clients first without working on your business. So it's having someone who week after week after week after week, and we are persistent that way, following up and checking in with the entrepreneur to make sure that they really are doing these tasks that they need to grow their business as well, not just how they handle their clients' work, but how to grow their business, new business ideas. Are they working on marketing materials that can help promote them? Is their website up to date? Are they posting regularly on social media to stay front of mind with new prospects? It's so many little things that get put on the back burner as, well, this is not the most urgent or important right now. It's important, but it's maybe not urgent, so it gets put aside.
Yeah.
And then my role really is to be that conscience that keeps coming back to the forefront, saying, okay,
that's fantastic.
You were going to do this. We haven't done this yet. I still haven't checked this off your project list. We need to finish this. What can I? And then also offering the support. What can I do to help you?
Right. Yeah. That's lovely. That's lovely. So that's great. Well, thanks so much for sharing all of this with us. You had some really great tips, and it's wonderful to see somebody that has, progressed so well into the world of entrepreneurship, who's come from the world of corporate and is now having success with their own business. And thank you so much for sharing all those great pieces of advice.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here as well. And it's always fun to share that and then realize how far I have come and how much I've learned. And honestly, it's such a steep learning curve when you first start out. There's just a million things you learn. And then when you look back a few years later, you think, wow, I really have learned a lot.
Yeah, I know. So Martina, how can people get hold of you? What's the best way?
Best way is to look me up online. The website is martinarowley.com. That's martinarowley.com. There's a contact page on there, and it also shows the 4 the service areas that I provide. And there's a bit more information about how we work and our values as well. in case someone wants to become a client and see if they would fit my needs for the kind of clients I want. And there's blogs on there as well to see the kind of business news and business thoughts that I share through there. So that's a great place to start. And if someone wants to know more, I offer discovery calls with somebody who might be looking for virtual support, and then we can see if what they need is what I provide.
That's great. And I'll put a link to your site in.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome. Well, take care. And
thank you.
Thank you
Bye,
again,
everybody.
Martina. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.